Good morning and welcome to our latest General d'Armée battle report. We're doing a new scenario today from one we've picked up actually from the General de Brigade scenario book on the Siege of Toulouse. So this is set in 1814 and we have the British assaulting the French army in southern France. We'll just do a quick overview of the deployments and of the troops. We have a few new features for the game today. Firstly, we've dug out some old scenery here of mine. This was done and made by a company called Snapdragon Studios many years ago. And here you go, we've got some entrenchments. Yeah, you can see, which are very nice. These are also this was also the manufacturer who did my Spanish buildings I used for some of my scenarios you may have seen on the channel. So here we are on the edge of this escarpment. We've got some dug-in defences for a small French formation here. Two light brigades. They're going to be operating as light troops with an artillery battery. They're supported by an infantry brigade here. These are all small battalions and these ones are going to be reservists. The French army in 1814 obviously being full of brand new conscripts. We move across and we have the road up to Toulouse coming up from the plain. And again some barricades and cut down logs and so forth with another two battalions of that light infantry brigade. Again, they're going to be line troops holding the centre. And then as we pan across to the left, we have a final French brigade, two battalions of conscripts, two small battalions of reservists, and two more battalions of light. Again, the light will be counting as the line troops with an artillery battery holding that left-hand flank. Facing in against the French, we have the experienced British Army of the Peninsula. So we have one British brigade here. These troops, these British, are all veterans, except for that small battalion on the end, which will be a provisional battalion, and they'll be counted as conscripts. In the centre, you can see we have four battalions of Portuguese. They will count as line troops. Again, another nice view of some of that scenery from Snapdragon. Let's come around the table, have a look from the other side. And then on the British right-hand flank, we have another British veteran brigade there of three battalions. And finally in reserve, we have a light cavalry brigade with our usual hussar and light dragoon regiments sitting behind the Portuguese. The British also have two battalions of Highlanders in reserve. I'll just give you a view here of the left-hand end of the French fortifications. Another entrenched artillery battery supported by one of the light battalions. Some French skirmishers halfway down the slope. We have the light battalion in support and the rest of its supporting brigade. And it itself has two chasseur regiments. They are reservists and recruits, so again the French cavalry, badly mounted and very inexperienced troops, so I wouldn't expect them to fare too well against the British. But a good strong defensive position, and we'll see how Charlie does. That's another British assault against the French. Hope you enjoy Toulouse 1814. Okay, one thing I didn't mention is the British don't have any standard artillery, but they do have some rocket troops. So for the first time on the channel, we've got my rocket troops in action. We'll see how they do. There is a rule amendment for General d'Armée, which includes some rules for some rockets, but I couldn't find any ranges for them. So I've just been doing some looking up on the internet, and it reckons that the maximum effective range was about 1,000 yards, which is not an awful lot different to a 6-pounder artillery battery. So we'll use the range for 6-pounder guns for the rocket troops. As always, all the troops on the table are pretty much Paris. The rocket troops are Warlord, and actually my Portuguese, who are also my Dutch Belgians, are front rank. But other than that, everything you'll be seeing today is Paris. Okay, morning Charlie.
Morning.
Here's the undoubtedly victorious British commander, just warming himself up and having a look at the table.
And the Prussian commander.
And he's usually the Prussian commander too. We will we'll crack on with rolling for ADCs for turn 1 and find out what our initiative is. All right, rolling for ADC activation. French get 2 ADCs, and Charlie, what about the British?
Get all 4.
All 4. Okay, we will allocate our ADCs. Okay, so we're rolling for activation. Charlie has put an ADC on each of his brigades to give them a re-roll for activation. So let's start with the British on their left flank, Charlie.
They are active.
Okay, the Portuguese in the centre.
Oh, I forgot. I have a reserve unit on their side, don't I?
You do. I'll tell you. I think it's turn 5 they come on. Portuguese are active.
I love them. That's why I chose the British, because they're very good too.
And then the British on the right flank. Active. And then the cavalry brigade. As active. All right. So I was more greedy. I put artillery assault, but without a reroll because I didn't have enough ADCs on this battery on the left. So this is the left-hand French infantry brigade. This is important. This one goes off, and of course it's a 2. So they are hesitant. My light brigade in the centre, Charlie, are active. My reserves behind the light brigade are also hesitant, and then finally my cavalry is active. All right.
That does
so
make
French,
sense though, because they are worn out units.
They are worn out units. So I've got 2 hesitant brigades. So my initiative's at -2. I rolled 2.
I didn't even need to
so
roll.
I'm on 0. So Charlie
didn't
doesn't need to roll. So he's decided he's not going to roll because he can't get less than 0. All right. The British have initiative, which I suppose makes sense given that they're assaulting the heights. All right. On we go with turn 1. All right, we've done movement for turn 1, and we've seen all of the British and Allied lines just roll forward, and otherwise the French have slightly redeployed some of their infantry battalions. This brigade on the left has moved forward slightly, so the support is a bit closer to its frontline units. I think that's it for movement. We'll now get on with firing in turn 1. Charlie, you to start. All right, we're just rolling for Charlie's rocket artillery. What did you get?
No.
Are you struggling with my handwriting? What number did you get, Charlie?
I got 8 to 5. 8.
8 to 5, I think, is no effect. Is that what it says?
Effect, yes.
No effect. Okay, so the rocket fires, shoots up in the air, but explodes in no man's land between the British and the French lines. All right, that's it for the British artillery. The French artillery batteries will now respond. So the French artillery will open fire. First, the battery on the left in this emplacement will fire at the advancing British brigade. 9. What's that, Charlie? Long range.
There's 2 casualties.
1 casualty and a discipline test. And then we've got a bounce through against the British battalion behind it. So that's 1 casualty on the one behind it as well.
Discipline test is fine.
Is fine, so that's an 11. So I'll mark those 2 casualties up in a second. We'll just put some dice down to remind ourselves. So that's 1 on each battalion, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll mark them up. And then we're going to do the same on the battery on the far right flank. Is going to fire at the British brigade as well, because we see them as the greatest threat. That's a 5 at long range is a half. That does cause a casualty, and then the bounce through does cause a casualty. So French are quite lucky this turn. 4 casualties on the British from long-range artillery fire. We'll crack on with turn 2. All right, rolling for ADCs in turn 2. 4 brigades for the French, 4 brigades for the British. That's a bit better for the French. I get 3 ADCs this time.
3.
And you've got 3. I'm going to do the same, Charlie. I'm going to concentrate on my left-hand flank because I think your forces look a bit more stacked up on this side, so we're going to put artillery assault with a reroll on this battery here. What about you, Charlie?
So I'm going to do a reroll on all my troops except those guys in the coats. I forgot what they're called.
The Portuguese.
Yeah, the Portuguese troops.
All right, let's roll for British activation then, starting with your left-hand brigade, Charlie.
Reroll.
They're hesitant. The Portuguese brigade.
Hesitant.
The British brigade on the end.
Active.
And then the cavalry brigade.
Active.
Okay, so you've got 2 hesitant brigades. I will go for my brigade on my left with artillery assault. Is active. My brigade on the right is hesitant again. My reserve on the right is active, and my cavalry is hesitant. So I've got 2 hesitant brigades. You've got 1, Charlie. Is that right, or have you got 2? 2. So we're both at -2. Let's roll for initiative. I get 7, you got 9, so the British retain initiative. Let's put those hesitant markers down and then we'll crack on. Okay, so Charlie's continued to move his left-hand brigade forward and he's thrown his skirmish line forward. And as a result, the French skirmishers have also moved along to their left to help defend the artillery battery. So we'll have exchanges of skirmish fire here and we'll do some rocket fire. Charlie, do you want to do your rockets first? Let's see what you get. Different target this time.
Got 11.
11, that's really good.
That's a hit.
That's a hit on, so change of targets, because Charlie was hesitant with his rocket artillery brigade, they can only fire straight forward, so they've had to change target, and they're firing at this battalion here, which unfortunately I just moved over the brow of the hill last turn, so it is a legitimate target. So I think it's 2 casualty dice and a destiny test for me.
It's
so,
2 times, oh yeah.
Casualty dice. Yeah.
Times by 2, it says.
Yeah, so no, but yeah, it means 2 casualty dice.
2 casualties.
2 casualties, and then a destiny test for them. 9, so they're fine, but 2 casualties on the French line infantry battalion. I'll mark those up and I'll do my return fire. Alright, so firing with my artillery, I'll do the normal fire first against the same 2 targets. Whoa, 11. That's quite good.
But it's still long range.
We'll check the range, make sure that's long range, and then I've got 2 casualty dice as well to do, because he's on artillery assault. That's another 2 casualties. So on 11 at long range, that would be 4 casualties and a discipline test. Right, firing my second artillery battery at the British battalions on the far side. That's 7 at long range.
That's
is half a casualty. So 4, 5 or 6 to do something. No, nothing. And the bounce through is 1 casualty. So 1 casualty on the battalion at the rear. Okay. That's the end of turn 3. We're doing quite well, the French, against these British battalions. The one that had to take a destiny test has gone unformed, so it'll be stuck there for the next turn. We'll move on and do turn 3. Alright, rolling for ADCs. For the French, 3 ADCs for the British.
3. I'm putting on my troops.
I'm going to do the same thing, re-roll on this artillery battery. Okay.
Why putting 3 dice on them?
So I've got an artillery assault, which is 2, and 1 for a re-roll.
Okay.
Because I really wanted to go off. Let's roll for initiative, both at -1.
No,
Oh no, we've got to roll for activation, haven't we, first, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's active brigades. I'll do the French ones first. Starting with the left-hand artillery battery. Needs its re-roll. Whew! Got it, they're active. My other brigade on the right-hand side is hesitant. My reserve brigade is hesitant. And my cavalry brigade is active, same as last time.
Hesitants?
I do, so I'm at -2. Charlie,
So
let's roll yours.
First brigade, all my normal British brigades are active. I mean, I have a re-roll.
Yeah, okay.
So my first one on the left-hand side, re-roll, is
Active.
My second one up there,
The British one, yeah? Or the
cavalry.
Portuguese?
The Portuguese don't have a re-roll, but they're active.
Yeah.
My cavalry, active. My last brigade at the end,
Is hesitant. All right. So you've got 1 hesitant brigade and I've got 2. I'm on 6.
I'm on
5.
4.
And I'm on 4 as well, so that's a draw, but you had the initiative last turn, so British retain the initiative. Okay, Charlie, let's open fire. Let's have another go with that rocket. Your brigade is active this turn, so what are you targeting?
That one.
The one in the middle? Okay. Let's see how you do against them.
10. So
Okay, that's 2 casualty dice and a discipline test.
another 2 casualties.
Another 2 casualties, so we'll put a casualty marker on them and I'll do a discipline test. Oh,
6.
I had a bad feeling about that, but not too bad. So they're unformed with 2 casualties. Okay, so opening fire with my artillery, I now have to go at the closest unit, so I need to fire at those Portuguese. I'd quite like to fire at the British, because they're delayed and I've caused quite a lot of casualties on them, but I have to switch to my next closest unit. Yeah, because we've done movement, haven't we? So they can form up. Did you move your... was the other brigade hesitant as well, Charlie?
That brigade.
That one over there?
That one.
The far one?
No.
Have you moved them forward?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, opening fire on the Portuguese. Going at that one, and I'll probably get bounced through to the one behind. 9. I think that'll be an effective range,
Yeah.
Charlie. So 9 at effective range. It's towards the bottom of that list. Second bottom one, I think.
So, yep. A 9.
Yep.
2D.
Okay, so that's 2 casualties and a discipline test. Okay, so that's 2 on them, and then because it was artillery assault, I get 2 casualty dice. So that makes it 3, and I get a bounce through dice as well, which is nothing. All right, 3 casualties, and let's do a discipline test on the Portuguese, please, Charlie.
Okay. If no minuses.
7, they're fine. All right, we'll fire with the other battery at
It's also hesitant
same
too.
British battalion.
It is also hesitant, so it is.
Okay, that's a 7 at long range, which is going to be half a casualty, which does do a casualty, and then the bounce through also does a casualty. So the French artillery fire still proving quite effective, and the British closing the range gradually. We'll go on with turn 4. All right, let's roll for ADCs in turn 4. Charlie gets his reinforcements next turn, as he was reminding me.
I get 3 ADCs again with normal.
I get 3 ADCs again. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to keep up the artillery assault on this flank.
I'm going to do the same thing I did last time.
What, 1 on each of the British brigades?
Wait,
You sure you don't want to go on the Portuguese rather than the British cavalry? Because the British cavalry is not really doing anything at the moment.
It's just there to counter your cavalry.
Yeah, but you don't need to have it active because mine's right at the back.
Oh yeah.
So I'd put the reroll on the
can I
Portuguese.
put, artillery assault on my rook artillery?
Yeah, I guess so.
Actually, no, I'm going to put my Portuguese in because I don't want them to get peppered down that much.
Yeah. Yeah, the more they get hesitant, the more chance I have to shoot.
Yeah. Active.
Yeah, Portuguese.
Active. My battalion at the end. Active. My cavalry. Hesitant.
Hey, we always get 1 hesitant. All right,
you always get 2.
My artillery is active. My brigade on the other defensive formation is active. My reserve is hesitant, and my cavalry will be hesitant. No, only 1 hesitant this turn. So minus 1.
Can I have hesitant because it's not going to do anything at all.
So minus 1 to the British. Oh, sorry, French rather.
You get 9.
So I get 9.
I need
Charlie.
to get 10 if I want to get this all. Oh.
8, close, but the French have initiative.
Movement, you're not going to really move anything, are you? So
Well, let me have a think and I'll decide. All right, French artillery opening up again at the Portuguese this time. They're in cover, so the left-hand battalion, so they'll be at minus 1. Whoa, that's not bad. 11, unfortunately that goes down to 10. That is at effective range. 3 casualties on them, Charlie, and a discipline test. And then we've got 2 casualty dice because we're on artillery assault. So that's 2 more. How many was that turn?
that is. But they have 7 casualties now.
Right, okay, so that's a discipline test at minus 1. And then there's a bounce through on the battalion behind them. No, nothing at all.
You know, that's not actually,
Good firing.
This battalion isn't really for attacking. It's just for distracting the artillery to wait for my troops to go up.
I know you're using it to divert my artillery fire against the Portuguese while the British outflank me. It's a dastardly plan, Charlie. I'm sure the Portuguese aren't impressed.
But it does
Let's
work.
do their discipline. I know
work.
it does work because I have to target your closest unit. You're just too good at these rolls.
This
4.
Is 4
Minus 1 is 3, so that will be a break of some sort.
They will retire back behind.
Their other unit, yeah.
But that is still fine because you still have to
But they
shoot
will
the-
both be, all 3 units now will be unformed though.
Oh, 3. That one wouldn't be unformed because that
No,
one
no.
wasn't shot at.
The one that flees will be unformed.
Yes.
This one will be unformed, and the British will
Yeah,
also
that's
be
what I
gone
meant.
through.
I wasn't saying.
So there are 3 unformed units there. All right,
It's
I'll
still
fire the other
fine.
one against the
'Cause
British.
You still have to shoot that one because it's still closer.
You're right. The British unit over there. Sorry for shaking the camera. That was me shaking the dice.
4, that is
4
just
at long
dangerous.
range will be nothing. All right. I've done all my skirmisher fire. Now your turn, Charlie.
So I'm gonna
Do
shoot-
your skirmishers first.
Okay, so
2 dice
2
against
dice
my
then?
screen.
no.
Over here.
1 casualty.
Okay.
Right, rook
And then your
artillery.
rocket
So
artillery.
shoot the same target
Same
again.
target. Okay. 6
6, that
is
just missed.
nothing. All right. Okay, that's the end of turn 4. On to turn 5. Charlie gets his reserves, and we'll just check that discipline test result. Okay, so Charlie's just brought on his replacements. We've got his 2 battalions of Highlanders just arrived on the table. They've come on alongside his provisional battalion there. You can see his attacking brigade moving forward up here. All right, Charlie, let's take a look from this side of the table. You've now got how many brigades? 5 brigades?
5, yes.
So you have 3 active ADCs.
I'm going to put it all on my British units.
I'll roll for the French from over here. French have 4 active brigades. We'll go and allocate our ADCs, and then we'll roll for activation. All right, Charlie's gone all aggressive. He's given himself a forwards order on his left-hand brigade, the one that's got the support of the Highland Brigade coming on. Let's roll for activation, Charlie, then. Let's roll for the...
Highlanders?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Active.
Okay, your brigade with the forwards order.
It goes on.
Yay! Your Portuguese.
Active.
Your British on the right.
Active is my lucky day.
Okay, and your cavalry.
Active, this is my lucky day. There's no
So with
resistance.
no re-rolls other than on his forwards orders, Charlie manages to pull it off with every brigade. That's pretty good going. All right, for the French, we've put artillery assault again on the left-hand side with a re-roll. Hey, that's failed. Yeah, Charlie's pleased with that, as you could probably see. I've got a re-roll on my other artillery battery. Yep, they're active. My reserve brigade is hesitant and my cavalry brigade is active. So still 2 hesitant brigades for the French, as normal, and none for the British.
Should we roll for initiative?
Let's roll for initiative. Yeah, I'm at -2.
12.
Okay, the British definitely have initiative. We'll do charges, which Charlie might want to do, but I think he'll just do forwards, and then we'll get on with more normal movement. All right, so after that devastating rocket near miss, which has scared my French troops out of their position in the centre, we're now on to French fire. We'll fire with my skirmishers down here. 2 dice against the British skirmish screen. No casualties. These guys, they've got 3 there, so those 3 will fire at the Portuguese. Nothing. Then my skirmishers in the centre.
They can't.
I don't think they're too compressed. Yes, only 1 base. There are still 4 in the unit, but only 1's actually in a firing position, so it can't fire. My artillery then, well, sorry, no, I will volley through Charlie's skirmish screen with my battalion there on the far right. It is in its 45-degree fire arc to go at that British battalion, but Charlie and I have agreed the skirmish screen is in the way.
How far is it? 6.
It's 9-inch range. See if it's within 9. From the middle of the unit to the closest point.
No.
Okay.
It's not.
Yeah, we just went round to check. Charlie's absolutely right. It's about 2 millimetres out of range in General d'Armée. You measure from the middle of the unit to the closest point. Just over 9 inches, so the French battalion supporting the artillery brigade can't fire. The artillery brigade will fire close range canister at the British battalion that's moving up. 6.
Oh, that's still quite bad.
That's going to be something, but your skirmish screen will take at least the first casualty.
So I think that's.
And then firing the battalion here, the battery here, against the advancing Portuguese troops. Again, at I think that's going to be effective range. We'll check after I've done the roll. 8. 8 at long range is 1 casualty, at effective range is 2. We'll just measure the distance and mark the casualties up on that Portuguese battalion. Right, so Charlie's being aggressive on the left. He's looking to move into the vacated defensive position in the centre with his Gloucesters. And then the battalions to the left are charging the artillery battery. So we've got some defensive fire from the artillery battery at close range. I get a 7.
I don't think that's great.
It's not great, it's not bad. That's 2 casualties and a discipline test.
That actually isn't. That's better because if you're Hobbit combat, I just get a -1. And I am veteran, so it doesn't really change too much to me.
Okay, discipline test then, Charlie.
8, I'm fine.
Okay, yep, you're fine. So let's do the charge results.
Let's do it now.
All right, I'll do it. Oh no, double 1 for the French battery.
I got a 6.
But I do have a flank support from that infantry battalion. So I'm on 6.
So I'm going to. So I get +1 for being veteran because I'm a higher morale grade than you because I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
I'm charging artillery. Does that do?
So you're veteran +1, so that makes you 7, yeah?
Yeah.
You attaching your general?
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes you +1.
Mhm.
Just going through the modifiers. Casualties in charge, took 2, so you're -1. How many casualties have you got?
5.
Okay, so that's another -1.
So I'm 6.
So you're back to 6.
Yeah. I don't think you get any modifiers. Oh, infantry charged by
Yeah, artillery charged by something doesn't give a modifier. Alright, for me,
that's just
no modifier, I'm just line. I haven't got any casualties.
I think it's just a straight roll off.
It's a straight 0. No, as on a 0 to -2, you volley.
Well, I am brilliant at volleying, so I'm fine with that. And I got 10.
Okay, so you stay where you are and you do 10. That's -2 for firing at deployed cavalry from memory. Deployed artillery. I will just check that. Infantry fire.
No, that's for counter battery fire. That's for counter battery fire.
You might be right.
That's only for counter battery fire.
You're right, it is for counter battery fire. You've got casualties though, so it's -1.
Yeah.
So what did you roll, Charlie?
I have 9 now.
9. You're not unformed. You moved, so it's an inferior volley because you charged.
No, well, every time we've done that, it doesn't count as inferior volley. Every time we've done that.
No, actually, it's different rules, isn't it? Volley, you're a standard battalion, so you get 3 dice and you roll 4 5s or 6s to do a casualty. Or 5s or 6s.
I got 2 casualties.
2 casualties on the artillery battery. All right. Cool. Just put a 2 next to my artillery battery, so you remember, Charlie. Okay, so that's it for charge reactions. We'll be on to normal movement. We'll do that now. Okay, we've done movement for this turn, and Charlie's lines have moved up, and he's close to capturing the first defensive line of the French, although the French battalions that were pushed out by that stray rocket round have now reformed, and look like we'll be on some combat there next turn. Charlie's moving his other battalions forward, but unfortunately his Highlanders were hesitant, so they've stayed in the rear. On this flank, Charlie's moved his Portuguese forward. They're now approaching the first lower parts of the defensive positions on the left flank, and he's backed away with his very damaged Portuguese battalion that's on 9 casualties, so that one's on the point of breaking, so he's withdrawing that one, and he's reformed his cavalry so they can start to potentially come through and exploit some of the gaps. While on the left flank, the British brigades continues to move forward in support of the Portuguese. We'll do some firing and come back and let you know where we get to. Okay, so Charlie has the luck of the devil with him. He's hit again with his next artillery fire, and his rockets have landed in the red flagged battalion that was standing on that hill. He's caused 1 casualty, and we'll just roll for our discipline test. 7. They're all right, but great success from his rocket fire against the centre of the French position. Most unlikely, the way most unusual for the ability of rocket units whenever I've played with them before. So great shooting from Charlie there. We'll now do the French artillery fire in response. Just the battery on the left firing as the other one did the charge response earlier in the turn. This will fire at the closest Portuguese battalion. A 7. All right, I think that's going to be at effective range. That's probably a couple of casualties. Okay, so Charlie's gone back to YouTube, so we've got an enforced break here at the end of turn 6. Let's just do a quick taking stock of where we're at. So the French position's still looking pretty healthy on the left flank here. The 2 light battalions have yet to take any casualties, and they've got plenty of support nearby. That's moved up nicely, and their artillery battery has been pretty effective. We've driven off and driven out of action one of these Portuguese battalions, but unfortunately I don't think we're ever going to break that. Charlie's quite good at moving his injured battalions, so his brigade's still got a reasonable amount of momentum. The 3 Portuguese battalions are now approaching the bottom of the slope and be assaulting in the next couple of turns, and they're supported by the English, who've taken a reasonable number of casualties here. 5 on the green unit and only 1 on the other one, so actually, no, they're still pretty healthy, and Charles is using the Portuguese to soak up the French fire, and he's got his 2 cavalry battalions moving nicely up in support. On the left flank, things looking tougher for the British, simply because their reserves, although very effective in the terms of the Highlanders, haven't been hesitant and unable to move forward, but they are reaching the crest of the ridgeline here. 2 battalions haven't suffered many casualties. 5 on the one opposite my guns, and pretty much 3 on the one behind them and none on the other one approaching the crest, so still in a reasonably healthy position, but I still do have my artillery battery and plenty of supporting fire and also some supporting units here as well. So it's going to be a close tussle, not necessarily the normal walkover for the English. Charlie's normal standoff and volley tactics have yet to kick in, and he's not necessarily got enough time to whittle me down like he usually does. So we'll see how we move on from turn 7 onwards. Just do a flyby of the French positions. Right, see you for part 2.
So, if there's any weak units, pepper them down with artillery.
Okay, so Charlie's rolling for his ADCs. 5 dice, remember, Charlie?
Oh yeah.
So you got the...
Well, that was 1 ADC. Got 4 ADCs.
Where do you want to allocate those?
All to my infantry.
Okay, what, 1 to each one?
Yep. So
No
my,
forwards or no
no.
infantry assaults?
So this first English unit. This is in
Distant, okay.
yeah, that Portuguese active, cavalry active, Highlanders active, my last English troop active.
Alright, cool. We'll do it for the French. We've got 3 active ADCs. I'm going to put artillery assault on the battery next to Charlie. So we will roll for that one. Active. The brigade behind it is active. This one here is hesitant, and the cavalry is active. All right, and then for initiative, I think we're both at -1, aren't we, Charlie?
Yeah.
10.
Ooh, I need to get 10 or higher.
Yeah. 3. I think the French have initiative this turn. All right, on we go with turn 7. Quite an eventful turn for Allied movement on turn 7. The Portuguese have made their way up through the outer elements of the French defences and are starting to reach the summit, facing off against a couple of small French reservist battalions. In the left flank, the British infantry and the other Portuguese battalion are approaching the French battery, and the French skirmishers have been driven back and they didn't want to mask their own guns, so they've fallen back to the side of the guns. In the centre, the British cavalry has started to move forward. There's a potential gap in the centre for them to exploit, so they're looking at trying to pin the French troops in the centre. As we look across to the central position, the French, because they've got initiative, were fortunate, and their units that had reformed last turn have been able to move back into a defensive position in the centre, and they've started moving some of their skirmishers across to protect this flank. And unfortunately for Charlie, his British battalion on the left went hesitant, so they're ripe for some volleying by the French. Meanwhile, in the rear, his Scots have got the hurry on and have moved forward rapidly over the hedge line, but did take a casualty each to try and move up speed. We'll move on to firing, first with the French, and then the Allies. Okay, so first we start with this battery against the Portuguese at close range. See what the French get. A 5, that won't do much. Battery at close range 5 is just 1 casualty. Then we will fire the battery against the British with infantry assault, also at close range, on the other side of the battlefield. We get a 9, and with infantry assault we get 2 bonus dice, 2 casualty dice. They don't do anything. We got a 3 and a 1. So for 9 at close range, we do 3 casualties and a discipline test. Just go and mark that up. Okay, so we now need the discipline test for Charlie for this infantry battalion at the front. They are on 8 casualties. This is -2, but they are veterans, so that'll be +1. 6. That'll be a net -1, which means they go unformed. Okay, just rolling for Charlie's rocket artillery, still firing against the French centre. Going at the rear of these 2 battalions. We get an 8, that's no effect. Alright, and then we've got some volleys to come in. Okay, we'll start with the French over on the right flank. First, we've got a small battalion of regulars firing against the skirmishers. -2 for a skirmish green, it's an inferior volley because it's a small battalion. That's a 3, so they lose their fire discipline. Alright, the next battalion in the centre, also an inferior volley as they moved, firing against the British who've just crested the hill. That's better. French get a 9, and that's an inferior volley because again it's a small battalion, but that's 2 casualties and a discipline test. Alright, we'll just put a marker by them. Put another one for the discipline test. Alright, and then we've got the French battalion just below the crest of the hill firing at the Portuguese who've just crested the hill. Again, small battalion, so an inferior volley. The French have rolled a 7, so that is 1 casualty on the Portuguese. And then finally we've got the return volleys from Charlie. Okay, starting at the right hand side of the Allied line, we've just lost Charlie for a moment to World of Tanks. So he'll be back, I'm sure, in a few minutes. We'll start with Charlie's skirmishers firing up against the artillery battery on the hill. 3 dice for 3 stands. Roll that one again. I can't really see which 3 they were. Roll them here. That's 2 casualties on the artillery battery. We'll mark that up. Then we've got Charlie's Portuguese firing at the artillery battery. Let's just have a look. Deployed battery is indeed -2. We'll check whether that's in range. So we've got talking with a tape measure in your mouth is a bit of a challenge. We've got a 9-inch range, and from the middle of the battalion they are just marginally out of range. Okay, so no volley from the Portuguese there. Then we've got a volley from the Portuguese battalion with 6 casualties. So this is at -1 against the small French battalion opposite. Again, this will be an inferior volley because they've moved. A 7. An inferior volley of 7 is 1 casualty against the French. Just going to mark it out before we put the casualty markers on the table. Then we've got Charlie's British battalion in the centre. They moved forward. Did they move forward this turn? The French moved up to them, so I think the British are remaining stationary. So that'll be a superior volley for the British against the tree in the centre. That's a 5 for a superior volley, is 1 casualty on the French. Just going to mark it down for them. Then we've got our unformed battalion in the centre, so that'll be at -2. They're stationary as well. And they are also veteran. So that'll be 8. A superior volley is 3 with a discipline test, but we're unformed, so that's -2. So that takes that down to 2 casualties on an artillery battery, and then it's another -2 because they're a deployed artillery battery. So that takes 8 down to a 4. That is still 1 casualty. So we'll mark that up, and that's the firing complete for the turn. Okay, Charlie, let's roll for your ADCs, and then you can give me your orders for this turn. So 5 ADCs, Charlie?
I want to do the same orders as carry on.
Okay.
I said put these skirmishers in the way.
They can't because they're too close, and there's not enough room. So you can't go
then
in the
retire
gap.
these back and then put them in.
Okay. You got 5, so roll 1 more dice.
I'm doing the same thing with ADCs.
What was that?
A 1 on each.
Yeah, you don't want to put fast forward on any of your units.
So infantry.
What was that for?
Roll for them.
Okay.
Active my
Scots.
Highlanders. Active
Your cavalry.
Portuguese.
Okay.
Active my
Yeah.
cavalry. Hesitant and my infantry. We are active.
Okay, so you've just got 1 hesitant brigade, that Portuguese. All right. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so with Charlie just having 1 hesitant infantry brigade, we'll now roll for the French ADCs. we've got 4 active French ADCs. So again, I think we'll put artillery assault on the one that's got the infantry battalion in front of them with a reroll, and then we'll put a reroll on the second brigade on this side facing assault. So starting with the ones facing assault, they are active. Then going for the other artillery battery, they're active. The reserve over on the right is active, and the cavalry brigade is active. So we have 4 active French brigades. We'll now roll off for initiative. Okay, rolling for initiative for both sides. So we have 7 for the British, 4 for the French. The British have initiative. Okay, quite a lot of charge action this turn. The Portuguese right-hand battalion has charged the French guns behind the redoubt. Over here, the Portuguese battalion has charged its opposing French light infantry battalion. In the centre, the British battalion has charged the French light infantry behind those defences. And then in sort of complementary movement, the British have actually retired their foremost battalion on the far left-hand flank, having suffered a lot of casualties, and the other ones have moved up in its place. And as we look across the battlefield, the cavalry unfortunately were hesitant, but the British infantry here is moving up also to support the Portuguese attack. We'll do the charge moves and see what happens in those. Okay, starting with the Portuguese charging the gun battery first. Okay, so the Portuguese get a 9. They are not in infantry assault actually, so they can't do 2 charges. All right, so we'll have a think about that. Okay, so having just clocked that, we've put the Portuguese battalion that charged the gun battery back down on the base of the escarpment. I'm sure they're pleased about that. And we will do that charge result on the battalions in the centre. Now, again, the Portuguese don't get a reroll for supports because they're not under infantry assault orders. It's just their front-hand battalion, right-hand battalion, as you look at it here, that have charged in. The French rolled a 6, so they do have supports. So they are going to re-roll at 2. We've got a 3. All right. So the French are on 7 and the Portuguese are on 8. Now the French at the moment have only taken 1 casualty, so they still count as a line battalion. They've got to do a defensive volley. All right. Well, let's do the defensive volley and see what the effects of that as the French charge in. This will be a standard volley as they haven't moved this turn. That's a 9. Standard volley, but actually an inferior volley because they're a small battalion. 9 is 2 casualties and a discipline test on the Portuguese. Okay, we'll roll for the discipline test. An 8, and that Portuguese battalion has taken 6, 7, 8 casualties. That's -2, so it's unformed. I'll just make the battalion unformed. I think they're going to struggle to charge home now. All right, and then on our combat results. So having done the defensive volley, the Portuguese suffered 2 casualties in the attack, so that takes them down by 1. They've also now got 8 casualties, so that takes them down by another 2. So that takes them down to a 6. And the French have only got 1 casualty. They're also line. They don't have their general attached. So it's 7 to the French, 6 to the British. So that's -1. So the attacker volleys. So we will do that volley result. Okay, so just to confirm, so the Portuguese charged in, the French did a defensive volley, they caused 2 casualties and caused the battalion to unform. The battalion then carried on its charge, and the charge result was slightly in favour of the French, so that forced the Portuguese battalion to stop. It let off a ragged volley, it caused no casualties and remains unformed in front of the French line. Okay, we'll go and do the next charge along as a French battalion charges the French a British battalion charges the French Légère in that defensive position in the centre. We'll roll the charge results. Oh, we roll the defensive volley, we'll do it right this time. So there is an inferior volley from the defending French battalion. They've rolled a 6 for an inferior volley, is 1 casualty. So that's 1 casualty on the on the English as they charge in. Right, we'll do the charge results. Okay, so the French have got a 5 and the British have got a 7. The British are supported, the French are supported, so the French are going to re-roll a 1 and a 2. Alright, well again, look at modifiers. The British only suffered 1 casualty charging in. We'll check the casualties on that battalion. They've got 2 casualties, and with that extra 1 they'll have 3 on them. So 3 casualties, so there's no modifier, I don't believe that, in charges. No, you need 4. So the British remain on 7. The British will throw their brigade general into this combat, so that takes them up by 1 to 8. And the British are 1 better in terms of morale because they're veterans, so that makes them a 9. For the French, don't think there are any adjustments. Just again check their casualties. They're only on 2 casualties, so no adjustments to that. So it's 9 plays 6, so it's a charge result of +3. Attackers take the ground. Defenders retreat with 1d3 casualties. Okay, so that's going to unform its colleagues behind it, and it takes 2 further casualties as it retreats from that position, and the British do have the first toehold on the French ridge. Okay, so the British, just to recap, have taken the hill. So that first British battalion has now captured this hill. It's forced the defending French Légère battalion back through its own colleagues. They're both now unformed, and they're in a pretty strong position there. That's a good British battalion. The other positions are still looking better for the French, and I expect they'll counter-attack and be able to potentially break the Portuguese brigade or push it off the hill perhaps, as there are plenty of French reinforcements down here, if only they can keep those British cavalry away. Alright, we'll now do the firing and come back after that's complete. Okay, so the British are opening fire on this French battery and they've done pretty well. So their skirmishers have already caused 3 casualties, taking the casualties on the battery up to 5. And the Portuguese battalion that we had a go at charging and then forgot it couldn't comply, has stayed where it was and has let off a standard volley and has rolled an 11. So an 11 for a standard volley is 4, and a discipline test it's -2 because it's against a deployed battery and it's in cover. So that's 2 more casualties against the battery. Alright, we will put a marker down and adjust that in a second. Alright, moving along the line, we've got the French skirmishers going against the other artillery battery. Normally 3 dice, but only 2 because they're in cover. We roll a 2 and a 1. The British skirmishers cause no casualties there. And then we'll fire the British rockets. And we'll fire the rockets against this battalion on the crest of the hill in the middle of the English position. So firing the British rockets, we get a 7. That's no effect. Alright, so rockets are fired away. I think that's the extent of the firing from the British. The French will now reply. So the French artillery battery here, it's now taken 7 casualties, so it's on -1. We'll have a go at close range against that Portuguese battalion to its front. A 3, that's a fatigue casualty, that's not great. Okay, so the French artillery battery is in a pretty bad way now. It's now suffered 8 casualties. I think it only needs 10 before it's completely destroyed. So they may have to limber up and move off if they're going to survive the battle. The French skirmishers have popped off another casualty against the Portuguese. Now we're going to fire the battalion in the centre. That was run through by its own colleagues. So that'll be an inferior volley as it's a small battalion and -2 because it's unformed. So rolling for this battalion in the centre. We get a 5. I don't think that'll be anything for an inferior volley 5. No, that's loss of fire discipline. If they're recruits, they're not recruits. So that's it for them. Then we've got the artillery battery on the hill. They will fire with our artillery assault, I think I put on them. I should have put the counter down. So we will, yeah, I can't remember whether I had artillery assault on them. We'll play it that I didn't. That's fairer. And they're going to fire at effective range, I think, at that infantry battalion next to them. A 10, that's pretty good. We'll go and measure the range just to check it is effective range. But at 10, that will be 3 casualties and a discipline test against that British battalion. So things not looking so good for the British on this flank. They took 4 casualties actually, because the battery was firing at closer range. We took 1 off the skirmishers, they were already on 2, so that made it the 3rd casualty on the skirmishers. So they've lost a stand. Then it was 3 more casualties on the British battalion here, that takes them up to 6. They also failed their discipline test. They rolled a 6, but despite being veterans, which would take them up to 7, the 6 casualties they suffered takes them down by 1. So they have gone unformed. So the French have caused pretty significant casualties on this at first attacking British brigade. We'll have to see if we can push the Highlanders through them and take up the assault on this flank of the British position. Alright, that's the end of the firing and the end of this turn. So things having taken a turn for the worse for the British, the commander is returning from World of Tanks to give me the benefit of his sage advice. We'll just have a little look at the battlefield while we're awaiting his return. This right flank, not looking too bad for the French. We've got plenty of reserves over all undamaged battalions to try and throw the British off the hill in the centre. That British battalion is in pretty good health, but the rest of its brigade are both unformed, so they'll be static in front of the guns again, and have taken quite heavy casualties, and the Highlanders are still some way back. In the centre we do have the British cavalry, which might help disrupt the formation, but again they're still some distance away from the French lines and no obvious targets for them at the moment. And as we look against the left flank, not so good for the French. We do have the Portuguese on the hill here, but I think the French should be able to push them off, but I am worried about that artillery battery, which has proved so critical in defending our left flank. It's caused loads of casualties on the British, but it pretty much does need to limber up and retire this turn if it's not going to be destroyed, and we need to replace it with that infantry battalion that's behind it. So all to play for as we go into turn 9. Alright, we'll roll for ADCs. Charlie, what did the British get this turn?
All of them.
All of them, and then for the French, 3 of them. Alright, let's allocate our ADCs. Okay, we'll roll for ADCs. The French have gone for artillery assault again on their right flank to try and finish off the British attack that's going in on that side. So we'll roll for that brigade first. We do have a reroll. Okay, so we've got artillery assault off there. In the centre, our reserve brigade is active, our cavalry brigade is active, and then the brigade on the left flank is active. All French brigades are active, that's pretty good. And then we'll roll for the British.
So my Highlanders, active. My battalion up here, active. My cavalry, active. My Portuguese,
Hesitant.
active.
And then your other British brigade?
Active.
Okay, so we're all active. Let's roll for initiative. Only 6.
7.
Okay.
By 1.
The British are holding the initiative in turn 9. Okay, so the British elected not to charge in the centre. They're going to use the battalion holding the position as a gun platform. And remember, their objectives were to hold 3 of those French positions, so they've got 1, and that might well be the best choice for them there. But here the French are having a go at pushing the Portuguese back off the hill, so I won't get any supports because I'm not under infantry sword.
I do get a volley.
You do? You're
And -2.
You do at -4, unfortunately, because you've got 9 casualties as well as being unformed.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
That doesn't do anything, just...
2, no, it'll be just fire discipline.
Okay.
Alright, okay, so charge results.
I'm not touching them.
I get 7.
Please. 3.
Okay, I think the French might, for once, win the charge.
I do
Okay,
get a
let's look
reroll.
at...
I have support.
you do have support, so yeah, you can reroll the 1.
5. Still
You've got
gonna
5. You've got a commander, do you want to throw him in?
No, he's gonna die.
He's going to die, yeah, you're probably right. Okay, so no general attached. Your line, you are unformed, so -2.
Okay. Do we just say they're going to route?
No, nobody needs it properly. Okay, and you've got -2 for casualties. So what, you're on 1. All right, the French have got no casualties.
No, they don't. They have casualties.
1 casualty.
It still is
It doesn't, yeah, it's a casualty.
But it still is a casualty, it's not none.
Yeah, this is true. All right, that's it. So the French have got 7, you've got 1. The French have won by 6. Victory, defenders routes and takes 1d6 casualties.
It takes 2.
Okay, let's.
It doesn't die
that.
though.
Okay, so we're now on shooting. We'll start with Charlie. Why not start with your skirmishers and we'll work the way along the line. So you've got
2 dice.
2 dice, yeah.
1 casualty.
1 casualty against that battery.
No artillery assault now.
No, that's a pain, and especially as it had artillery assault orders.
Gone?
So it's gone because it can't do it. So even though I spent the points on it, I don't think it can do the infantry
So my
assault.
volley.
Your volley, so that's a superior volley.
11.
That's a bit good, isn't it? So that's a superior volley against those guys. 11 is 5 casualties and a discipline test.
Okay, what did you get? You get -2.
No, what? How many casualties have I now got?
10.
Okay. And that's a small battalion, so
That's
it's
'cause it's
destroyed.
It's gone.
Okay, so I can't fire
With
back.
faltery, that's
That'll be a falter test on that brigade.
that's karma.
You can fire this battalion down here.
Okay, so Dad, can I get my rocket artillery quickly
Yeah.
to fire down onto that gun up there?
On these guns over here.
Yeah. Hoping that battalion
Yeah,
falter.
yeah, you can do that.
I'm hoping for that battalion falter, but I don't care because I want to move up into that part.
All right, let's
I
fire
want
your rocket artillery then.
It's
8.
8.
I don't think that was anything.
No, that's
was it?
just nothing.
9.
It's just nothing.
All
My
right.
skirmishers.
No, you got this battalion to fire.
Oh,
And
2 dice. -2.
Yeah. And
They should fire them as well.
lose fire discipline.
No.
Skirmishers down here. Only 2 dice because I'm in cover.
1 casualty.
Okay,
What?
they are on 9.
Okay, my volley.
Okay.
9.
9.
They're gone.
That's probably it. So they'll be at -3 though, so that's a 6 against the standard volley is 1 casualty.
So that is.
The artillery battery is destroyed.
So that's 2 falter tests for 2 brigades.
Yeah. It's the same
No.
brigade.
No, that light unit's with that unit, and those ones are with.
No, the 4 light units were all the same brigade. No, you're right. The 2 light. There's 4 light units on the right.
Yeah.
These 2 are with this brigade
So
down
2
here.
front ones are faltering and 2 front
Yeah.
troops.
All right, we'll mark that up. Okay, so that was quite a dramatic turn 9. Let's just have a quick recap. The British are potentially on the point. They're desperate for initiative this turn because if they do, they'll get over and into this French entrenchment on anchoring the French left-hand end of the line. As we move across, we've got to do a falter test against these Portuguese because the French light infantry have thrown them off this hill and are some way to recapturing the centre of the position. Charlie's moved his light cavalry up and in response my 2 conscript battalions have formed square, but there are still some potential juicy targets for the British cavalry. In the centre, Charlie is now firmly in control with his battalion having volleyed away his opposing light infantry. And on the far right-hand flank, I've done some more casualties against Charlie, but otherwise it's pretty much in stalemate on that side of the board. All right, let's roll for initiative in turn 10. All right, ADCs for turn 10. I'll roll for the French. I've got 2.
Only 2. And the British get 3.
All right, let's
I'm putting-
allocate our
I'm
ADCs,
putting 2
Charlie.
on my faltering brigade.
Yes, I've got 2
And
faltering
1
brigades,
on
haven't I? So I have to put 1 on each. So I've got 1 on this brigade because it lost its gun, and 1 on this brigade because it lost the battalion.
You can let one have Savvy Keeper and put 2. You can.
No, I think you have to allocate 1 to each faltering brigade. Okay. So let's roll with for activation. This is quite important, isn't it? Who wants to go first? Charlie? Okay.
So my brigade up here, active. Phew. My Highlanders, he's active, yes.
Your cavalry?
Yeah, my cavalry active, yes.
Oh, that's good. Your faltering...
I'm going to roll for my other one first.
Okay.
My active, so everything's
All
active.
right.
Faltering.
So these are
I
just
do get a reroll.
standard
I
lines
do get a
and you
reroll.
do get a reroll.
6. I'm not reading on that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they've rallied. All right, so
They're
they
not.
stay unformed, but they're not routing. Okay, now for the French, really important rolls. Okay,
You
for
don't
this
get any
brigade here, no re-rolls.
2.
2. Oh, that's not very good. 2 is retire. Retreating and routed units disperse. Well, they've already gone. Or remaining units retire and lose 1 casualty and lose 1 base if skirmishers. Okay, and the retire range is 12 inches. All right.
I get the hill back.
You probably will get the hill. All right, and then for my brigade in the centre, 1.
Savoir keeper.
Savoir keeper, that's not good. The brigade loses ADC permanently. We don't have any retreating or routing units. Do we have the skirmishers? Yes, the skirmishers disperse. Everything else retreats and loses 2 casualties each. Brigade remains faltering. All right.
Oh, so you have to do another one.
I will next turn. Okay, those faltering tests were pretty dramatic. Effectively, both French brigades that were holding the hill line have had to fall back. The ones on the right were on a retreat result, have gone back 18 inches, and the ones on the left have got a retire result. So although they haven't disappeared off the table, they've all given up their positions. If we roll initiative and Charlie wins the initiative, he will occupy all the positions and have victory.
But no, it depends if all your troops are hesitant too. Even if you get the initiative, all your troops are
Yeah,
hesitant, they
won't
won't.
be able to. All right, let's roll our dice. It's a fairly important roll. I have 2 faltering brigades. My other brigade did get active.
Oh, aren't they technically both hesitant though too?
So they are hesitant, so I'm on -2 for the French.
I want to see your roll.
I get 8, so
You
that
get
makes
6.
6.
Come on. 9.
All right, the British have captured the hills. We'll just move the units and do a final recap. All right, this is turn 12. That was an incredibly close game. It was those, it was the shooting casualties Charlie caused on my artillery battery, causing that brigade to have to fall back that turn, and me failing the command rolls and savoir keeper rolls on my faltering brigades, because the French have now been thrown off, and on turn 12, Charlie has now skirmishers. I don't know whether skirmishers count as a unit, but I'll be generous. He's up to the edge of the defended position on the left flank, and his skirmishers are in it. His battalion that occupied the centre earlier in the game is still there. His Portuguese are over the log defences on the lower part of the hill, and he has a battalion now into the artillery position. And the French really aren't in much position to push him out. Most of these battalions back here haven't suffered many casualties, but now the British occupy these positions with the British firepower.
And also,
I think it's all.
I also do have untouched, really.
And he has his untouched Highlander reserve as well.
But why do you have casualties?
Because we ran them over the hedge while you were playing War Thunder, because we wanted to try and get that up quickly, so they just both took a
I just
casualty
said
each.
I wanted them to be slower.
I know, but they needed support.
Okay.
It has been quite close. The Portuguese brigade was made to do a falter test, which Charlie did fortunately pass, but one battalion's got 9 casualties, another one's got 11 casualties. So the Portuguese brigade was nearly broken, and Charlie, the British brigade that led the attack on that flank again, we pretty much successfully held them off. Those 2 leading British battalions there, both taken 8 casualties. The one in the centre is in good shape. But the French artillery in those fortified positions, even with only line troops against veterans, pretty much against up to turn 10, were holding the British at bay. But finally, when all the waves crashed in at the same time, they have broken through and won yet again. Well done, Charlie. Another famous victory. Really enjoyed that game, really close this time, and not so much of a walkover by Charlie. It took him till the last turn of the game to
But I
win.
wasn't really playing too much.
He wasn't really playing too hard, he says, and he did pop in and out to play War Thunder. Alright, hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.